Have you ever been driving down a busy street trying to follow the GPS directions on your phone when suddenly you miss a turn and end up getting lost? Or do you struggle to decipher the tiny screen on your phone while also keeping an eye on the road? Well, what if I told you that there's a better way? What if you could simply follow a digital lane painted right onto the road in front of you, guiding you to your destination with ease? That's the idea of augmented reality navigation in a Tesla. And today, we're going to explore this cutting-edge technology in depth. So buckle up and get ready to take a ride in your next car that just so happens to have augmented reality inside. Welcome back to Reality One, the podcast where we demystify the cutting-edge world of augmented reality and explore how it's transforming the way that we live, work, and play. I'm your host, Avraham Raskin, a spatial UX architect from Australia. Each episode, I take you guys on a journey to discover the limitless potential of augmented reality through simple, day-to-day applications. Whether you're a tech enthusiast or simply curious about this game-changing technology, this podcast is for you. Join me as we delve into the world of AR, uncovering its secrets, exploring its possibilities, and learning how it's revolutionizing our world. So sit back, relax, and get ready to have your mind blown. This is Reality One, and I'm Avraham. Let's get started. In today's episode, I'm going to introduce you guys to the concept of AR navigation inside of a Tesla. I'm going to give you an explanation of how this technology works, compare it with traditional GPS systems. We're going to go over some of the advantages and some of the potential challenges and limitations of navigation with augmented reality. And then we'll wrap up with the impact that AR navigation will have on the future of driving. Number one, follow the yellow brick road. This is the title that I gave this concept all those years back when I came up with it. Now, the yellow is kind of in curly brackets to indicate you can swap out any color. And for all intents and purposes, we're going to go with the traditional blue that you have on most GPS systems. Let's start with story time. Recently, I was driving up to Sydney with a friend, and because I don't know the directions off by heart, we were using GPS app on our phone. So for the first half, I was driving and following the GPS navigation, and it was all fine. Then my friend takes over and trouble starts happening. First instruction comes up, GPS says, take your next right. And they go, okay, what do I do? And I'm like, we just heard the same instruction, just take a right, take the next right. Okay, we continue driving. The next instruction comes up and they go, okay, what do we do now? And at this, I'm like, are you serious? Like, we're both hearing the same instructions. It says, take the second exit on the next roundabout. But that just means go straight. Look at the icon, shows you just go straight. Just follow the icon and the instructions. I was like, how hard could it be to just follow the navigation? Haven't they been using a GPS for their whole life? Like, why is it so, what are they finding so difficult? And the truth is that we do day to day have difficulties with GPS. And I very quickly discovered this as we pulled into the city. I noticed that I was missing some instructions. I was missing some signs of the road. Because this was a foreign city, a city that I don't usually drive around in, my brain was spending a lot of processing power on just understanding and taking in all this new information, that having this navigation as GPS on top of it, it was too much of a cognitive load. It was overloading and I was missing some things. And it's important to note that I'm in the same country, right, that I grew up in. It's not like we were driving on the wrong side of the road. The measurements are the same. Right? Still kilometers. We haven't switched to miles. So where were these difficulties coming from? Why were we having such a hard time? This is where the concept of AR navigation comes into play. The idea is super simple. Think of the last time that you've driven around a city. You've probably noticed that some of the lanes have been painted. They're different colors. You might have red lanes for buses, green lanes for bikes. Some places you may even have pedestrian lanes that are painted yellow. It's exactly like that, but digitally painted. Before I explain how this technology works, let's visualize this. Okay, so remember the last couple episodes, we got started with a day, and now we're on our way to work or gym, wherever it is. So we step outside and we've just ordered a brand new Tesla Roadster and just got delivered. Come outside and we see this beautiful machine sitting in our driveway. We can't wait to jump in and take it for a spin. You set everything up on your phone. You've got the app up and running. You approach the car. The doors open. It greets you. You sit inside the driver's seat. And there's so many new things to take in. All the buttons and dials have disappeared. And all you have is this nice, sleek screen in the center of the console. And that's where everything is. Now, some of this looks a little bit similar, if a bit modern. You've got the big maps in the center. You know how the GPS works. You've got music. All the different functions are over there. You're like, okay, great. We'll play with all this later, but right now I've got to get to work. So you punch in the address for work and you hit, let's get started. But as you do, a little pop-up comes up and says, hey, we've got this update for you. It's AI navigation. You want to update? And you say, heck yeah, let's make this brand new machine even better. So you hit update, and as the update's going, you look around the car, you're so stoked to get in this new machine and figure out what it can do. The update goes by, computer resets, and as it comes back online, it looks very similar to before, but that huge map in the center of the screen has disappeared. And you hear a voice come up and it says, okay, where do you want to go to? Do you want to navigate to work that you just put in? You say, yep. Okay, great. Now nothing changes on the screen, but something's happening as you look out through the windshield of the car. And you notice that the road is changing a little bit. What used to be the regular black asphalt has now started turning blue. And it looks like someone's painted it. And you go, okay, this must be this new augmented reality navigation. Let's follow it. So you pull it onto the road, and your entire journey, there's no instructions, there's no icons, there's no map on the screen that you have to take your eyes off the road. All you have to do is make sure that you're staying on this lane that seems like it's painted, and it's personalized for you. The exact path that you need to take to work, everywhere you go, all those lanes, the lanes that you need to follow are all colored blue. It could not be simpler. Now, how does this work? What is the technology behind this to make this work? And why did I choose a Tesla? What is so special about this car? There's a couple different technologies over here. We're looking at augmented reality, which itself is comprised of many different things. You've got computer vision, you've got artificial intelligence, machine learning. All these different things come together to help project this digital paint onto the lane in front of you. Now, why did I choose a Tesla? Because 95% of this already exists inside of the Teslas that are being sold today. They're part of Tesla's autopilot system. It uses these technologies already to understand the world around it so it can navigate on the highway, drive on city streets, it can change lanes. All of this is already built for that system. We don't have to go and start from scratch. The only thing that we would need to bring in is some sort of visualizer, that augmented reality part that actually takes what the car sees and understands, take all this technology that understands the world and wrap it in such a way that it highlights only the road. So when you're driving, it looks like the lane in front of you is painted. Let's step back a little bit and compare traditional GPS systems and this AI navigation. So if we go back in time, when I was growing up, we had a system, we had a book called The Melways. What it was a map of the whole of Melbourne, all in a very thick booklet using a graphing system so you could get from page to page. And what you would do is, before you went on a drive, you would open up this book and you would have to trace out the entire route yourself. You'd have to figure out how to get there and flip between pages and figure out how everything worked together. And during your drive, you'd have to pull over, stop the car, and reconsult this Melways to see if you were going in the right direction and if there were any issues along the way. And then you would continue along with your journey. And you would do this a couple times. After Melways came along things like MapQuest, where it was the precursor to Google Maps. You would go on the computer before you'd put in your destination. The system would figure out the route for you. You would print out the entire route and you would have that on your lap and you would read through this and you would follow it as you drove. Now, after this came dedicated GPS systems like TomTom, things like that. Then we have this built into the smartphone, like Google Maps and Apple Maps. This was turn-by-turn navigation. What it did is instead of giving you a whole list to follow at once, it would tell you what you have to do at the next turn. And sometimes it would tell you the turn right after that. Now, let's very quickly pull apart the traditional GPS system. When you look on your phone or inside of it's made up of 6 different components. 3 components for the map and 3 components for the instructions. The map has, obviously the map, a satellite image or a map of the road with layers of traffic, things like that. Then you have a little icon to tell you where you are, the car that you're in. And you have usually that blue line that shows you the route. This is the map that you're looking at. Then the instructions have 3 parts as well. You have like an icon that kind of shows you the kind of turn that you need to be taking. You would have the distance in whatever unit of measurement you're using, miles or kilometers, until the next turn. And then you would have the name of that road or that highway that you need to turn onto. And this whole system is supposed to package everything up in a way that helps you find your way, right? To help you navigate. Now, what you now have to do is look at that map. Then you have to look at the world around you. And in your head, you've got to do this mapping, which you're actually mapping these 2 worlds, the digital world that sits on your screen, on your dashboard, or the screen on your smartphone. And your brain kind of has to use that information to figure out through your icon, through the map, the intersections, the direction you're facing, all of that to figure out where you are in the world and how to translate the world of the map inside of your screen with the world around you. Now, with augmented reality, we actually get rid of most of this because we are marrying the worlds together. What is augmented reality? It takes that digital layer that instead of it being in a separate world, a separate window, or a separate screen on your dashboard, it lays it out onto the world. It does the mapping for you. So you no longer need another map from the satellite. You don't need an icon telling you where your car is because you're not looking through a screen anymore. You're looking out onto the real world. The only thing left is that blue line, that route we've taken outside of the screen and we're basically like pasted it onto the world around us. That's the augmented reality layer. It's taking all that information and everything that exists on a smartphone and putting that right onto the world around you. This is the benefits of augmented reality and how it can really help navigation. The directions become more intuitive. You no longer have to hear or read instructions. All you have to do now is follow the yellow brick road. You just have to make sure that you're on top of that blue lane. Just like when you turn when you're driving on a bus lane, you don't have to have instructions and signs telling you you're on a bus lane. You can see that you're on a red bus lane. It's subconscious. It's not something that you have to focus on. It improves driver safety because you're no longer taking up cognitive bandwidth to try figure out how to map 2 different worlds. It's reducing distractions because you don't have to take your eyes off the road around you. At highway speeds, even 1 or 2 seconds with your eyes off the road can be fatal. Navigation's also more accurate. I've had times where my navigation tells me to turn, but because of how it's zoomed in or because of the thickness of the line, I can't tell if it's telling me to turn in this next road that's coming up or the road behind it. Over here, because it's built onto the road, there's no such question anymore. You're not thinking when a system tells you take the second exit on a roundabout to try figure out how many exits are there of this roundabout. Is the second exit straight ahead or is it to the left of me, to the right? Which one is it? The icon helps you a little bit, but you've got to check back a couple of times to make sure that you're actually taking that right exit. Whereas when the road is painted, You don't have to think about that. You don't have to even give it any thought. You just have to make sure that you're following the yellow brick road. You just have to make sure you're on that blue line. It's a more enjoyable driving experience because you're not thinking about navigation anymore. Think of the difference between the first time you drove to a brand new job or a brand new shopping center and the 10th time. The first time you're focusing and listening to the navigation, you're following every single instruction. By the 10th time, the 15th time, you don't even give it any thought. You can have conversations, you can have the music blasting. There's no cognitive load that's happening over here. Your brain is not over-processing this. You're able to do a bunch of other activities because the navigation has now receded to the subconscious. And the overall driving experience is not just enhanced for the driver, also for the passengers. They're no longer being told to be quiet or turn the music down when you're trying to find a specific house on the street, or when you're both arguing about what the right directions are, because navigation and figuring out where to go is no longer a necessary part of the driving, because that has just become super simple and completely intuitive. So we've looked at the advantages of navigation with augmented reality, but what are some of its potential challenges and limitations? Let's look at the things like cost and complexity. Those, in my opinion, are not such big factors inside of a Tesla where most of this technology already exists. The only thing that you really need to be building is a system to visualize this, right? The augmented reality layer. So you could have things like a windshield, a transparent screen that goes on the windshield, or a projector that sits behind the dashboard, right? They've freed up all the space that used to have buttons and dials and complicated air conditioning systems. It's all freed up. You've got a massive trunk. You've got space to put a projector behind all that projects up onto the windshield and treats it like a transparent screen. The more costly parts of this would be something like Tesla branded augmented reality pair of glasses that may come with your limited edition Tesla Roadster 2022 or whatever year they finally bring it out in. But those would be, that would cost a little bit of money. And the other option is your regular pair of glasses that will supplant your smartphone or your tablet or laptop or desktop, that will become that personal computer that you have every day. These systems will become just apps, just like you have Google Maps and Apple Maps on your phone today. You may also need eye tracking, which is actually covered in the latest models. They've I think a year ago on the Model 3, they added in an interior camera. And that they said in the beginning was just for robo-taxis, or maybe some people were talking about insurance purposes. They opened it up recently in the last couple of months for tracking your eyes and seeing if you're actually paying attention to the road. And that may take over having to touch the screen in the future. But the point is you've already got cameras looking at you and their purpose is to track your face and what's happening while you're driving. That could be used to help you visualize and to help it look like the actual lane is being painted as your eyes and your head moves. Along with that, you might be concerned as well about privacy or safety issues. If you're already using autopilot today, I would say that you're not as worried about privacy. That interior camera, I could see people being concerned about a little bit of privacy, and hopefully that is addressed and that's not something that people can get a hold of. Because this is not something got to do with the self-driving part, we're talking about a world, this navigation is geared towards the human driver. I'm still talking about a world where the navigation is for the human. For the next 10, 15 years until regulation catches up and until we actually have level 5 self-driving, we're still going to be driving the cars and we need navigation. When a car becomes self-driving, you obviously don't need that navigation. And this actually segues perfectly into this last part of what is this impact of AR navigation on the future of driving. While I don't think it's going to be such a big impact on self-driving cars because, like I just said, AR navigation is for the human driver, not when cars become self-driving. But once we do open up augmented reality for navigation, there's lots of other use cases for augmented reality through the windshield, through the windscreen as you look out into the world around you, and quite a lot of applications of augmented reality inside of the car. And that's actually where you'd want to have the augmented reality glasses rather than just the windshield. But those possibilities and all other applications of augmented reality in the car, I'm going to share with you in the next couple episodes. So you're going to want to listen to those because we're going to dive into all the other ideas of augmented reality out in the world, outside the car, and inside the car as well. Well, that was a big episode. Even though today we only had one idea, we did dive quite deeply into it. There's a lot more that we can go into, but I think that's enough of a dive and enough of a starter into this navigation. Plus, we've got a couple more episodes for other ideas. I want to thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Reality One, where today we discuss the concept of using augmented reality to paint the navigation route onto the road, which is going to render traditional GPS systems obsolete. We explained how this technology works, compared the advantages and disadvantages of traditional GPS systems and AR navigation, and discuss the potential impact of AR navigation on the future of driving. I hope you guys found this episode informative and entertaining. If you enjoyed it, please leave me a review, share the podcast with your friends and families, and send me any feedback or questions that you might have. If you've got any questions or suggestions for future episodes, I'd love to hear those as well. If you're excited about the possibilities of augmented reality in the automotive industries, then you won't want to miss the next episode of Reality One. In the next episode, we're going to dive deeper into this world of augmented reality inside of cars and inside of our Tesla Roadster that we just recently purchased, and share even more exciting ideas on how this technology can enhance the driving and commuting experience. So stay tuned for that episode. And in the meantime, I encourage you to keep exploring the world of AR technology and experiment with different ideas. Thank you again for listening to Reality One, and I look forward to having you join us for the next episode. Until then, keep exploring the world of AR and stay curious. I'll see you guys in the future.